And then you have this clear thought, I have to do music. And I didn't even know what that meant. So I came back to Seattle, which is where my family is. I was living in Beirut at that time, and I got a one-bedroom apartment in Bellevue where I didn't have any connection or friends or family. And I started Kristina Lee music without a student. But that's how I started. And now it's been 13 years being here, loving what I do, falling in love with teaching. It's just been amazing.
Hey there, I'm Rachel Airing, and you're listening to the Top Music Piano Podcast. Get inspired as we discuss creative resources, trends in piano pedagogy, ways to grow your income and streamline your studio, and new ways to engage your students each week. If you are a teacher who wants to go beyond the method books to create an innovative studio that fosters lifelong music makers, you've come to the right place. Hello, piano teachers. Today's episode is a really powerful one. I just finished recording with Kristina Lee, and she provided so much wisdom in this episode, and I know that you all are going to find it really valuable. One of my favorite parts was when she talks about creating space in order to figure out what we truly want. I don't want to spoil it, so let me tell you a little about Kristina, and then you can listen to the episode for yourself. Kristina Lee is a pianist, educator, and founder of Live Love Piano, where she creates online courses designed especially for adult learners. With a background in performance, intercultural studies, and decades of teaching experience, Kristina brings a soulful and thoughtful approach to music education. She's passionate about helping students reconnect with their creativity, develop solid technique, and experience the joy of playing the piano, no matter their age or background. Here's my chat with Kristina. Hi, Kristina. Welcome to the show. I am so excited to get to know you a little bit today and learn more about your story. Before we get into it, can you introduce yourself and just tell us a little about what you do?
Hi, Rachel. It's really nice to meet you. Thank you for finding me and inviting me to join you today. I'm Kristina Lee. I'm a pianist, teacher, music educator, and I'm also a certified life coach. And I'm the founder of Kristina Lee Music in Bellevue, Washington, United States. I better say that because I know you have listeners all over the world. And I also run an online space called livelovepiano.com. And that's a space where I offer online courses for adult piano learners.
So is Kristina Lee Music a physical location? Like, do you have a physical space where... Oh, I thought it was all online, I guess.
Yeah, I started Kristina Lee Music in 2012, and I've been in the space that you see right now on our Zoom call is the studio space. So I've been in this building for almost 10 years. So yeah, it's a very real brick and mortar mom and pop or just mom only
Yeah.
studio.
Okay, I got it. So we'll get more into the online stuff in a little bit, but I was wondering if you'd be willing to share some of the story of how you got to where you are today, whatever you feel comfortable and drawn to share.
I was born in Korea, and my family immigrated here when I was 12 and a half years old. And by then I had played the piano for several years. And I gained proficiency. I was playing Beethoven sonatas, Moonlight and Pathetic, all three movements. I was very proud of that at that time.
It's a big accomplishment.
Yes, yes. So coming to the US, piano became even a bigger thing for me because I had to learn English for the first time. And so music and my ability to play the piano kind of became a language of itself, almost like a advocate for who I was at that time. I was really also interested in literature as a little girl. I used to read a lot, loved to write. So when I came to the US and, looked at college options, I really didn't think I had the option to pursue something in literature. So I somewhat reluctantly went into piano performance. And graduated from the University of Washington. And when I graduated, I just couldn't see myself, pursuing a life of performance for several different reasons. And I did not like teaching. I started teaching piano when I was in high school to make money for my own piano lessons. And by the time I graduated, so I taught throughout college. And by the time I graduated, I thought, oh, I don't want to be a piano teacher. And so I left basically seeing music as my career for about 17 years. And I traveled. I studied cultures, intercultural studies, and theology. I lived in multiple continents. I had multiple careers. So that was about 17 years. And then I went through a deep personal loss right before I turned 40. And at that time, I had this clarity in my mind. I mean, things, it's just life is so weird and crazy. You think your life is so crazy and so out of control and so chaotic. And then you have this clear thought, I have to do music. And I didn't even know what that meant. So I came back to Seattle, which is where my family is. I was living in Beirut at that time. And I got a one-bedroom apartment in Bellevue where I didn't have any connection or friends or family. And I started Kristina Lee music without a student. I think you know about my first piano from my article on Rhonda Rizzo's blog, Note That Guys, and your listeners can read more of that story if they're interested. But that's how I started, and now it's been 13 years being here, loving what I do, falling in love with teaching. It's just been amazing.
Thank you for sharing that. That was really beautiful. And when we were talking before the podcast, or when we were talking about what we were going to talk about, one of the things that you mentioned is being authentic and how to run your business and your studio from a place of authenticity. So we're going to dive into that a little bit. And so I think you set us up so well because that felt like such a beautiful, authentic story that you just shared with us. But can you tell me, what do you think that means to lead and teach from our authentic selves?
Yeah. When I was preparing for this talk, I was like, why did I say that I was going to talk about this topic? What gives me the, permission or authority to talk about this topic? Because authenticity and being authentic, it's abstract, it's big. So I am going to try my best to talk about it from my own experience and from my heart. But I hope your listeners can just, listen for that and hopefully find their own voice of authenticity. So when I started teaching for the second time, when I turned 40, I told myself, I'm 40 years old. I had different experiences in my life. Yes, I felt very insecure. Everyone who went to college with me have been teaching for almost 20 years now, right? Like what makes me think that I can, start a piano studio and, quote unquote, compete with them. And I told myself, but I have my own life experience and I'm going to be the teacher that I want to be, where I bring all my life experiences to be the teacher and to make the business that reflects who I am. So that's just an example of deciding and finding your path of authenticity, knowing who you are, which is also a big, big concept, and asking yourself, what is that you want? What do you want from life? What do you want from your teaching? What do you want from your business? What do you want it to do for you? And having the courage to answer those questions honestly. And to do that, you have to make space, right? I think making space is a big step into finding authenticity. And then having the courage to live it honor it, honor ourselves, finding our own self-worth through that. I was thinking about this word because we can all relate to it. And then we have to practice it.
Wow, there's so much in what you just said. And I want to highlight a couple of things. One is you were talking about how everyone else had been doing it for 20 years. And I relate to that a lot because I had a whole career as a collaborative pianist. And then after COVID, transitioned more into the teaching space. And so I kind of felt that way too, that everyone else has been doing this for 20 years. And here I am. And who am I to, you know, come waltzing in and pretend to be a piano teacher? So yeah, I resonated with that. And that idea of finding your own journey and not comparing yourself to where someone else is, and just getting to know yourself and what you want. I would love for you to tell me a little more about this idea of making space, because I think we kind of throw that around, but what does that mean and what do we do with the space? Like I heard something recently about we shouldn't be filling up all the empty space, whether that's our time or our physical space or whatever. But then what do we do? What do we do with that space that we've made?
I really believe for myself, it really works to work very hard and rest very hard. So something I do is I have this do nothing days. And I just, do whatever that feels most comfortable and restful for me. And sometimes I just sleep all day. And through that, I feel like you come to a different awareness and different place of your consciousness, because we don't pay attention to that when we live in routine and when we lived in, as piano teachers, our schedules are just really appointment oriented, right? Like when my friends see my schedule, they're like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
like,
Yep, every 30 minutes, right?
Right. So we all know what our life is like. And so for me, I just have to make intentional times to rest and just let it be, let things be, let my mind drift, sleep, listen to music. I actually don't like to listen to piano music so much. I don't know if you can relate to that.
Yeah, it depends. Sometimes it's relaxing, but sometimes I know what you mean. Yeah.
Our fingers start moving with it.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly. Yeah.
So I like to listen to a lot of ambient, string-oriented music. And I love to go on drives, long drives, and I just let things just be. Sometimes I use questions as a trained life coach. And, that's one of the techniques you can use to get into a deeper self and answers. And one of the questions that I've been asking myself since late 30s is, what is the deepest desire of my heart? This is one of the things I regularly do with myself when I make space for myself, or even when things are chaotic. What is the deepest desire of my heart? What does my heart want in this situation? So this is something that people can try, and I recommend using pencil and paper. Habit journaling is powerful. Because when we talked about asking ourselves questions and answering, but when you write it, it becomes more real, right? And then just that writing process does something to our brain to start manifesting.
Yeah, I struggle with writing and journaling so much, but when I do it, it's so good. I need to do it more. And sometimes I give myself permission to just do like bullet points, because sometimes I think the idea of writing full paragraphs is overwhelming, but even just lists or bullet points can be, I think, a good way to get those thoughts down.
Rachel,
Yes.
do you do something to make space for you?
You know, in the past few years, I've started doing more meditation, and not in a super woo way, but just listening. Like I'll find a YouTube video. I have some favorites and I'll just set it next to me on the bed. And it's so soothing to me. I think that's maybe how I make the space, is just having that soothing voice. And, usually they have some ambient sounds and stuff on there. And even if I'm not doing meditation, like the way people maybe think of it, just having that space in my mind and listening to that is so soothing for me. Thank you for asking.
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah. So, all right, give me an example of maybe somebody who is not living from a place of authenticity. What would that look like? Or how would someone know if they weren't being authentic?
So one of the first things I want to talk about is that no one shouldn't be saying to someone like, you're living authentically.
Yeah,
You're not living authentically.
that's true.
Because living authentically, it's not a static thing. It's an organic living thing, right? And I feel that, it's something that I'm in sometimes, and I find myself out of it. How do I know that when I'm out of it? And I think, one of the first signs is living with fears. I think we all have fears. So it's not just like having fears, but like making decisions out of fears. Another thing is comparing ourselves and this constant sense of unworthiness. I feel that, I'm in it sometimes. I find myself. And I have to then bring myself back to me, like, through some of the things that we talked about. Another thing is like feeling constantly being dragged from one thing to another. I think as piano teachers, like if you're like me, you're subscribing to multiple teachers who talk about resources, programs. And, there was a time when I was like, oh my gosh, I have to do everything, I mean, it takes like hours just to print out the resources.
Yeah,
And then you're so tired that you don't have time to look at it. And those things are sitting there for months or years. And you feel even like less worthy of yourself because like, I didn't even look at these things, So there's this like, FOMO and fear of just missing out and wanting to go with the trend. I think some of these things are just signs or feeling resentful or reluctant. In some of the Facebook groups, teachers talk a lot about their relationship with the students and their parents. And if you're constantly feeling like you're getting the short end of the stick and you're, becoming resentful, like something has to change. I mean, absolutely you cannot change them. You have to change something about yourself, not because, you're wrong, but because you can't change other people.
Exactly. Yeah, that's so true. I know I see all those comments too. And sometimes you just want to get in there and like give them a piece of your mind. Like you can't change those people. And so I mean, we haven't even talked about boundaries, but that's the whole thing about boundaries, right? Is it's about what you can do for yourself. It's not about changing other people or telling them what they can or can't do, right? I have a question about authenticity. So, of course, sometimes there are things in our lives that are so personal that we don't want to share. How do we live from a place of authenticity without maybe oversharing, or if there's just something big that we're not ready to talk about? But sometimes, people ask questions and you're like, oh, I probably should come clean about this, but I don't want to. You know what I'm saying? Right?
Yeah.
What do we do with that?
Well, you already gave an answer earlier about boundaries.
Mm,
I think being authentic is also knowing our boundaries, protecting ourselves. We have tender selves, right? We are teachers, but also we're musicians. We went into this because we have this soulful selves and we have to protect it. So, finding all of that, knowing that, and then finding how do we express that and articulate that in the way that honors myself and hopefully the other person the best. That's our work, right? Like finding the boundaries actually the starting, but we still have the work to do and the practice. I used to hate the word practice because I was like, did you practice? Did you practice? Right? But now I'm really embracing this word, practice is just the way that we live our life and intentionally in the way that we choose to do and consistently.
What are some things that you're practicing right now?
That's a good question. I'm practicing accepting the bigger forces in my life and surrendering myself to it. I'm a planner. I I'm one of those people. It's like I have my 3-year plan, I have my 5-year plan. If I have a meeting or something, I think through it, and I like to have this sense of control. And I'm not saying that it's a bad thing. That's just the way my brain works. That's my temperament. But I'm also in the process of giving myself to something bigger than me and trusting it and knowing that whether it's God or universe, our ancestors are there to catch me and that things will be okay. That's what I'm practicing, right? Because you know a little bit about what's going on with my life. There's a lot of things that are up in the air. I started a new part of my business, and I'm learning that. I'm in the process of moving, and in the process of changing the way that my business is, and changing my personal relationship with my because I've been moving, family and friends. So there's a lot that I want to have control over, but I'm learning to let things be and trust that it'll be great. Not just okay, but it will be fantastic.
Yeah, you have to have some faith, huh?
Yes.
So I do want to talk a little bit about teaching adults, but I have one more question for you. And I didn't tell you I was going to ask you this because it just occurred to me. But in the current age that we're in, there's so much talk about AI and chat GPT. And with that, I feel like there's a lot of talk about being authentic because I think people are craving that authenticity more than ever. Like you see a post online and you immediately think, was that chat GPT or is that actually the person? Right? Do you have some thoughts about in this age of AI? How to be authentic and maybe even how to use AI and still be authentic. I don't know. What are your thoughts about it?
I use ChatGPT quite a bit these days.
Yeah, so do I, but I don't want to lose me.
And I actually often ask ChatGPT about ChatGPT because I am really just intrigued and amazed by my experience with it. What is AI? Okay, so artificial intelligence like ChatGPT has the power to search the internet data, to collect data, and come up with an answer for us, right? But then you can use it in a way that is very personal and that maintains a sense of your voice. And so the law for me, yes, I use it for my writing and preparing my contents because I do create a lot of content for online. And so, yes, you have to feed it, but also you have to use it in a conversational way until you know that it is true to your voice. So I think it becomes more and more important for us to have, the authentic voice. Because if you don't have that, you're just gonna give into the intelligence of ChatGPT, for example, because it is impressive, it's fast, and you just want to be like, oh my gosh, that sounds so good. Yes, I'll say that,
Yeah.
that's my answer, which is actually part of what I did for preparing for this podcast. I prepared answers and then I fed into ChatGPT and I was like, I scripted it together, but it didn't sit right with me as I kind of rehearsed it. And so that's that you have to have that, the sense of self sense of what your voice is and what do you want to do with it, right? What is the purpose of everything that we do? And for me, this script is not going to serve the listeners the way that I want. So I want it today to be more conversational. So long story, I recommend everybody to use it, but I I think, same thing with teaching. I said this several years ago. Yes, you know, apps and all these technologies gonna be able to do what we do better, but that just gives us the more impetus to excel at the thing that we can excel at. And we all have to find it. We all have to hone it and offer it to the world.
I like that. That's a great answer. Thank you for coming up with that on the fly too. No chat GPT for that answer, right?
That's why it was kind of run on. And I'm okay with that.
We're going to transition a little bit because I do want to talk about teaching adults. We don't talk about adult teaching much on this podcast. Usually we talk about kids because most teachers are teaching primarily kids. But I would love to hear why you enjoy teaching adults and how it's different than students who aren't adults, I guess.
Yeah, for the longest time, I said no to every adult who wanted to learn piano with me. I said, I don't teach adults. They'd be like, why? I said, well, because children are more patient. And what I meant was that children don't have this sense of like, oh, well, in 6 months, I should be able to do this and no music theory and this and that. They are willing to stick with you for years and be okay with that. So I said no, but then the pandemic hit. And to be honest, I got really tired of talking a lot and explaining everything, on Zoom with my, kids. So I accepted one adult student, and I guess she changed my life. She's still my student. Her name is Autumn. And through teaching her, I just realized how patient adults are and that, they're usually more resourceful, especially if they have this mind of learning. And so from that point on, I just started seeing adults in a different way when I'm teaching them. And you can have just like amazing conversations with them too. Like I have a student who's a physicist, and the very first meeting, we're looking at the piano, and I'm just kind of giving like, okay, 80 keys, and and he's like, oh yeah, the string is like this and that, frequency. And then I said, well, all the notes go on this grand staff. Immediately, there are not enough lines. And I was like, I love it. No one has ever said that to me. Things like that, because they bring their expertise and life experience and knowledge to our lessons. So I enjoy them very much now.
Yeah, I only have one adult student and I actually love her so much. And it's just a totally different relationship, right? I mean, she's become my friend and we chit chat about life and vacation and everything, before and after the lesson. And she is very motivated. She has to be self-motivated. I'm not giving her stickers or, her mom isn't telling her she has to practice, right? So she has to have that intrinsic motivation. So are you primarily teaching adults online now, or do you have them in person as well?
I have few adults that I teach in person. I'm gonna keep a very small in-person studio going forward because of my online courses. I have a bunch of students who are in my online courses. Yeah.
Yeah. Can you talk about that? Tell us about your online courses, what you offer, and how that format works well for these adult students.
When I turned around age 50, I realized that I'm not going to be invincible and energetic as I would like to be. And I also wanted to have multiple streams of income. Actually, that's what took me to coaching. And so I started this coaching program. And, learning something else is so wonderful, right? Because it opens your mind to some other things. And so in that coaching program, what happened is that I got this inspiration to create courses. I didn't want to create a piano course because I didn't think it was possible. We know how organic and conversational and spontaneous it can be, right? We are responding. And like, how do you do that in an online format? So I didn't want to do it. But during while I was going through the training, I thought, okay, let me ask the question, if I were to do it, and if it was possible to capture what I do in this pre-recorded format, what would that look like? So that's why and then the ideas came, and then all the inspirations came. So I ran with it, and that was just a year ago. I launched my course in October called Simple and Beautiful Piano for Adult Beginners. So I've been running it. I didn't know anything about e-commerce, YouTube, online marketing, and the learning curve has been really steep, but it has been amazing, Rachel.
You've learned quickly. So is this past October 2024 you started it?
Correct.
Wow. That and how's it going?
It's going really well. It's going really well.
Is it an evergreen course where people can sign up anytime and they join? Is that right?
That's correct. So they just pay a one-time fee and they can do whenever they want. And that's some of the reasons the people are taking my courses. I've gotten to know some of the students, and the feedbacks that I've heard are like, they like the fact that they don't have a teacher breathing down their neck. Like doing it on their own terms, their own time, repeat it as much as they want. They can take a break. They can ask me questions. I will, answer every question by comments or email. And some of them feel self-conscious about going into a studio where there are usually a lot of kids. They don't necessarily want to have a teacher come to their house either. Many of them are in their retirement, and that's not their idea of retirement. So it works really well for people who are looking for something like this. Even my mom took it, and she doesn't speak English that well. And oh my gosh, she's like playing piano for me and the family. It's amazing.
Had she played before?
No.
I should have my mom take it. She's tried she had some piano lessons when she was little, and then in retirement, she's tried to pick up a little bit, but I don't think she's gotten very far. I should give her your course.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I know. I had a question about, initially, like, is this gonna work? I didn't know, but I had to follow this vision and conviction and desire to fulfill this once I got onto it. But now I know it works. I've gotten responses. I mean, I went through ups and downs. Like, trust me, it's not oh yeah, I have the course and now I'm gonna sell it. Like you have these days like, oh my gosh, no one's gonna buy it. It's not gonna work. But you look back after 6 months, 8 months, and you're like, oh, it's working. And you get these responses from students all over the world. I've had people tell me that they were depressed, couldn't sleep, and they started piano, and it changed something in them, and they found joy in life again. I've heard from like a student in Australia who, always wanted to play the piano, but she was part of a big family, and that opportunity did not come to her until she found my course. I have a student who has multiple sclerosis, and she said as part of her rehab and therapy, she does different things, and she finds that a lot of things she gets into it and then she gets out of it, but that she's able to stay with piano. I mean, when you hear these things, you're like, oh my gosh, this all makes it worthwhile.
Yeah, totally. Wow. So how do people primarily find you? Is it through your YouTube channel, or where are they finding you? How are they finding the course?
It's through my YouTube channel. And I didn't know anything about YouTube, but I started working with the coach who is also an online creator. Her name is Nikki Tracos, and she's a watercolor artist. She was my first coach. I also have a mentor. So if anyone's interested in it, I just recommend people looking for the right mentor or coach or a program. There are programs you can buy as well. Like that guidance is really, really crucial, which we know, right? As piano teachers, we believe in education. Right?
That's right. Yes.
YouTube became the thing. I didn't know it was going to become the thing. And, like the idea of like putting things on social media regularly, it's like, it's a bit stressful. But actually, I realized that it's really nice. I'm really enjoying it a lot now because people are finding me. I have a video on Piano Technique 101 that's gotten like over 160,000 views. And that's the one that brought so many people to my courses as well. And, like people commenting like, oh my gosh, I've waited all my life to start piano. Thank you so much. Like, thank you, YouTube, for, letting these people find me.
Yeah, that's amazing. So, do you have any other advice for teachers who might be thinking about creating an online course? I know you mentioned finding a mentor. Is there anything else you would say to those teachers?
I think if you have a good mentor or coach or a program, it will go through not only the how to, right? Because we're like, oh, how do you do it? How do you do the marketing? But there are also the preparatory work on ourselves that we have to do, which is actually, very close to what we talked about today. It's like, what are you gonna offer, right? And a question even before that is, what do I want? There's a very important question that we ask every time we work with in coaching, every time we set a goal with the client is, what makes this important for you right now? So those questions need to be answered if you want to be able to offer something that's authentic and powerful.
Wow. Thank you for bringing us full circle right back to where we started, right? Kristina, could you tell listeners where to find your course, your resources, and if they have any questions, they might want to reach out to you?
I would love to hear from your listeners. The best way to find me is on my website, livelovepiano.com. And you can use the contact form to reach me. Also, you can find my YouTube videos and Instagram. It's at Kristina Lee Music.
Thank you so much, Kristina, for sharing your stories and your wisdom with us. I learned so much, and I know that my listeners are going to get so much value out of this. So thank you for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me, Rachel. And it's so nice to meet you. And I look forward to meeting you in person.
Same here. Thank you. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. If you enjoy these episodes that are a little more inspirational than tactical, I would love for you to let me know. I'm always curious what resonates with you. You can connect with me on Instagram at Rachel Ehring. That's the end of the show for this week, but next week on the podcast, we're going to start a series on practicing and helping our students build better practice habits. We all could use a little work with that, I'm sure. We'll start the series with a chat with Holly Hornion next week, so I hope you'll join me for that. I'm Rachel Ehring, and you've been listening to the Top Music Piano Podcast. I'll talk to you again soon.
How do you keep up to date with all the latest trends and research into music education? How do you connect with other teachers around the world and make sure your teaching stays fresh and relevant for students of all ages and stages both now and into the future? I created our Top Music Pro membership to be the one-stop shop for music teaching resources, training, support and community, and I'd love for you to come and join us inside. With over 40 comprehensive training courses, hundreds of teaching demonstrations and lesson plans, free monthly sheet music, discounts, and all the business and pedagogy support you could ever need, Top Music Pro is the community you've been looking for. If you're ready to level up your learning from the podcast and join thousands of other teachers in our global network, head over to topmusicpro.com today.